just in disrepair. It was plundered. So they took all those nice things out of the house of the Lord and took it to Baal's, you could say, temple. So they were in disrepair, you could say, because it's not used. Sometimes you see houses in disrepair, no one uses it. And as a result, no one looks after it. And when you look at some of those places, it's sad to see the place just deteriorate because there's no one using it. No one cares for it. So looks like the house of the Lord was getting to a stage where perhaps the king went, and maybe he remembered the house of the Lord when he was still in there, and he looked at it now, and after the queen was there and so forth, and her children plundering everything, he probably looked at the house of God and decided that things have changed, and maybe felt obliged to rebuild it. And it's interesting to see that they just didn't rebuild it. There was a word, it says, and strengthened it when they rebuilt it. So it was rebuilt, but more than rebuilding, they strengthened it as well. So they made it better. And it's good to see that it was, and the king's personality, let's talk about that. Why was he concerned about the house of God? Apart from, that was his hiding place, you could say. So maybe he had a bit of affinity to that place because that's where he was saved. That's where he grew up. But apart from that, why do you think that he had this love for the house of God? And perhaps why? Any thoughts on that?
I think it was because he grew up till he was 7 in the house of the Lord. He was trained in the law and to love God with all his heart. That is the first commandment. And I think that God gave him the love for the temple as well, not just for the people, for the temple, that he take care of it.
Mm-hmm. And when you buy something, what do you do to it? Say if you buy an older boat, what do you do to it?
Refurbish it.
We fix
it up. You want to use it. So maybe he had the house of God, he looked at it, it's pretty dilapidated. Hey, we want to use it. So obviously if you want to use it, you want to rebuild it and make good use of it. And obviously because of his respect for the high priest and love for God, and love for the place, because he, you could say, grew up in there, he decided to rebuild it. And I think the greatest reason for it is because he had a good relationship with the Lord. And the relationship was there not because of anything else, but because he respected the high priest, and the high priest was his advisor. Let's read 5 to 11.
He called together the priests and Levites and said to them, "Go to the towns of Judah and collect the money due annually from all Israel to repair the temple of your God. Do it now." But the Levites did not act at once. Therefore the king summoned Jehoiada, the chief priest, and said to him, "Why haven't you required the Levites to bring it from Judah and Jerusalem, the tax imposed by Moses, the servant of the Lord, and by the assembly of Israel for the tent of the testimony?" Now the son of that wicked woman, Athaliah, had broken into the temple of God and had used even its sacred objects for the Baals. At the king's command, a chest was made and placed outside at the gate of the temple of the Lord. A proclamation was then issued in Judah and Jerusalem that they should bring to the Lord the tax that Moses, the servant of God, had required of Israel in the desert. All the officials and all the people brought their contributions gladly, dropping them into the chest until it was full. Whenever the chest was brought in by the Levites to the king's officials, and they saw that there was a large amount of money, the royal secretary and the officers of the chief priests would come and empty the chest and carry it back to its place. They did this regularly and collected a great amount of money.
Okay, thank you. It sort of was interesting to read that when he sent out the Levites to collect the money for the upkeep of the temple, it said, how about the Levites hasten not? So the Levites weren't collecting the money quick enough, you could say. Any thoughts on that?
The state of mind.
Yeah.
State of mind?
The state of mind. The temple needs repairs. The religion is official is a pagan religion. People careless. Levites giving up. They haven't got the book of the law. It was found much later by Josiah. I think this is probably one of the saddest times in the history of Israel, spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts on that?
What was your question? Say it again. Is it on
The
here?
Levites were sent out to
Yeah.
collect the money, but it says they were too slow.
Where's that? I missed.
Verse
I'm looking for that.
verse
5, I guess.
5.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was slack, bad attitude, complacent. And also, I think what people might be willing to give or contribute, but if no one's coming around to organize it, like, I would have gave, no one asked me.
Yeah.
I felt like helping, but no one organized it. So we sit there not doing anything because those that are in charge of the organizing don't do it, maybe.
Yeah.
So, and there's in this is the Old Testament, when they were collecting first time for the tabernacle, and they were supposed to bring all these things and gold and so on, and they brought it to Moses, and after a point he said, that's enough, we have more than enough for this. People wanted to give.
Yeah.
He put a break on it and said, that's enough for what we're building the tabernacle. Whatever items they were bringing beyond that. And I just looked here, it says, why haven't you, to bring from Judah and Jerusalem the tax imposed by Moses?
Mhm.
So I don't know if anyone looked that up. Here's what it says. Moses said to the whole Israelite community, this is for building for the tabernacle, this is what the Lord has commanded. From what you have, take an offering for the Lord, everyone who is willing to bring to the Lord. So it was based on what you have and your willingness, not on, oh, you must give this much, you must give that much, 9% from you, 20% from you, you guys are rich, you give a bit more. He said, whatever you have, whatever you're willing. The New Testament, Paul supports the same thing, as you're able, and if you're willing. It's not actually a dollar amount or, a weight of gold, it's what you can. And if you're willing, that's more important than the actual amount. And so they were so willing that maybe these guys couldn't collect it fast enough. People would be willing. And I'll just give you a very practical example. If we would say to the ladies, organize a lunch next Sunday, there's going to be enough food for 400 people out there. We tend to be more willing than overwilling by nature and by Christianity. But sometimes it's not asked or organized. But people, I think, by and large, are willing. But the priests were slack.
Yeah.
A long
Just-
answer, but that's how
No,
I
no,
feel.
I was sort of wondering about that. What were the responsibilities of Levites?
To go to the people and collect the gifts, what they want to give.
Okay. I'm
But-
asking about their functions.
Well, look after the
Servant,
temples.
servant of the temple.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
servants.
And were they much involved with money?
I don't know.
Collections?
No,
I don't
no.
know. I think that sort of, we're almost asked something that they probably never done. Collecting money. And actively going out and sourcing that. But when they were told something that triggered them was, it's a commandment of Moses. So
Moses.
when they realized that, you know, it's a requirement of God to do something, and it's a commandment, that they went out and done it, and did it well. But maybe they didn't see that it was a commandment.
Wasn't it the Levites that had the offices of being priests? They didn't actually own any land. Land was not given to them. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can generate money in the same way that others could.
Yeah. The others were given land and responsibilities for generating funds and doing the work and all that. The Levites were just sustained by the generosities of the others, isn't it? So maybe it's trying to give the wrong job to the wrong person, or right job to the wrong
Well,
person.
and
I don't know.
it could become entitlement too, like, I'm a Levite, you know, you guys are supposed to contribute.
Yeah.
Let's see what piece of meat is floating in that pot. Ah, there's a nice piece I like, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting that it's mentioned that they were a bit slow. Like, just
He doesn't say, but I'm thinking of the frame of mind. The Northern Kingdom worship of God had collapsed, and they're probably thinking, there's nobody coming to the temple, and we're going to die as well. Collect money, what for, who for, repair the temple, what's the point?
yeah,
You know, humans get to that stage in life where they tend to just give up. And look at the church before Reformation. That was the same state of mind until men of Simon, Martin Luther, Jan Hus, and others thought, no, this needs to change. But yeah, humans get to that. It's a very common thing.
so you're sort of indicating that the Levites were a bit rusty because there was no functions in the temple.
Yeah.
So they were a little bit, I don't know, lazy or rusty or whatever, and they needed a bit of oil when it was indicated that it was a commandment of Moses. And maybe that was the oil. They all got oiled up and decided to go out and do the job that they were told to do. And so that was good. And they made a chest, so they put it outside the gate. And it says the people were more than happy to contribute. And Brother Arnold also read about in Moses' time. They were so willing to give that Moses had to tell them to stop. And in this particular case also that they were willing to give. What makes a cheerful giver? And what are the characteristics of a cheerful giver? You know, mentions that God loves a cheerful giver. So what is a cheerful giver?
Well, firstly, they know that God will provide,
Yeah.
so they'll never be without anything.
Okay. So if I give, the Lord will still look after me. And as a result of that, they're not afraid to give. I think a lot of people that are not cheerful givers, if I give, I have nothing left. I will miss that. But if I give, and the Lord abundantly supplies as well my needs, I don't have to worry. He looks after the birds, he looks after everything. So even if I, give the last, I can be assured that God will look after me. So, having that attitude helps to become and to be a cheerful giver, knowing that even if I give everything, God will still look after me. The Lord will take care of me.
And
Yes.
because God is keeping that record of that ledger of what we gave or didn't give. We're
Yeah.
not supposed to let the left hand know what the right hand's doing. There's not supposed to be like a public, oh, look, he's such a great guy, he gives this much. She's so great, she gives this much. And he's not so good because they don't give this much. Like, that should not be. It should be private and secret, and this shouldn't know that, and that shouldn't know this, because God knows.
Mm-hmm.
I remember many years ago, we were at church camp there in Webster Springs, or wherever it was in the U.S., Camp Massanetta, and they had a big auditorium with all the individual chairs, and each one on the back had donated by Joel Smith, and donated by, Tom Payne, and everybody's name was there, like, what, like you're being honored now because you gave $5 there or something, or some buildings they put a plaque, this wing was donated by so-and-so, like, okay, good, you got your reward on earth, but God knows what you gave.
Or even this was one case that was outside the gate, and everyone just put in whatever they felt like.
Yeah, that's an important principle, I believe.
And, sometimes you could say churches practice a bit of competition, you could say. When you give the plate, the guy next door sees how much you put in or whatever. And some churches apparently even have separate boxes for individual names where you sort of contribute to create competition so that people will give more. But that's not the intent. The intent is free will offering. Yes?
I remember Brother Vic sharing here, he said what happened he related how in New Guinea he had to be careful it didn't become the paganization of Christianity that, if I go to church and if I do this and do that, I get this. If I give more, I get that. Like the health and wealth gospel, right?
Yeah.
Give more and you'll get more. And it becomes like a paganization of it.
Yeah.
And you're right, in some churches, you see, I've never seen it personally, but you might see it on a movie, they pass a black bag around and you put your hand in there. No one knows if you put anything or not. It's no one else's business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you even take it out because you need it that week. Who knows? But whatever, it's supposed to be top secret.
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
Any other thoughts on that? Yes.
This with the bag, they do it in Hungary all the time.
Yeah, I don't know.
They
but
have
it's-
on both sides, or on it depends how big the church is. They have several people, they have this bag, and they give it from row to row, and everyone put in what they want to spend
Yeah.
or to donate.
Yeah. So it indicates free will offering, and if you're able, if you are willing, give it. And it says that the people were happy to give. People rejoiced and brought in and cast it into the chest until they had made an end. So they collected a lot of money, and the priest brought in the money, and it says gathered money in abundance. So when there's willing of the people and they're happy to give, there will be abundance. So what happens next? Let's read 12 to 14.
They did this regularly and collected a great amount of money. The king and Jehoiada gave it to the men who carried out the work required for the temple of the Lord. They hired masons and carpenters to restore the Lord's temple, and also workers in iron and bronze to repair the temple. The men in charge of the work were diligent, and the repairs progressed under them. They rebuilt the temple of God according to its original design and reinforced it. When they had finished, they brought the rest of the money to the king and Jehoiada, and with it were made articles for the Lord's temple, articles for the service and for the burnt offerings, and also dishes and other objects of gold and silver. As long as Yahweh lived, burnt offerings were presented continually in the temple of the Lord.
Okay, thank you. If you were the king, who would you hire to fix it? You know, you had the money now, and there was plenty of money, so who would you have fixing the temple? A builder.
Builder,
Good.
the most skillful people,
Okay.
that they do a really, really good job.
Okay. I think that's probably I don't think they would have wanted a discount. I don't think that they were looking for the cheapest price. But this is the Lord's house. We're going to get the best tradesmen and we're going to pay for it. I think that was the attitude of the king, and usually kings are able to do that because of the funds they have. But they wanted to do a good job, and they hired all these specialist tradesmen. They worked with copper, whatever it was. Brother Victor, you had something to say, or you want to say something? Okay, all right. So they wanted to make sure they do a really good job, and they even strengthened it, which means that they built it original and they made it stronger. And then they realized there was money left over, so we're going to buy the utensils, the fit out and all that. So the house was built, God's house was built, and they had enough money to do the fit outs, which was all the, you could say, things that went into the temple. Yes?
I can imagine that the workers, they were probably also godly men. They would not ask for the highest price, just that they can survive.